Oh, there we are. Thought my mic was off for a minute. All right, folks. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 333 of McRae Live. The date today is Monday, May the 19th, 2025, 7:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. What are some of your horror hot takes? Tell me your hot takes. The stuff you're afraid to tell your friends. The stuff you wouldn't dare say online, but you'll say to me. You wouldn't dare say to your friends. You're embarrassed by it, but you feel it. You truly feel it within your heart. Don't be embarrassed. This is your opportunity to tell me what your most craziest horror hot takes are. The ones that are going to blow me away. The ones that are going to blow people away, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me what those are tonight. I want to know what they are. Your craziest horror hot takes. Hot takes. Okay, I'll get the ball started. You want a hot take? I'll give you a hot take. I think A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 is better than Dream Warriors. There you go. I've said it. Somebody had to say it. No, look, I mean, look, whether it's a better movie, it depends what we're measuring, right? You know, are we measuring the script? Are we measuring the act? You know, what are we measuring? Certainly when it comes to Freddy, I think it is. I think Freddy's better in Elm Street 2. I think he's scarier in Elm Street 2. And, you know, maybe I'll say it like this. Maybe I will say it like this. As much as I like A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and I like it, it doesn't hold up as well to me as some of the other, I don't know what it is. There's something about 3. I like 3, but it doesn't hold up as well as I remembered it holding up when I don't know. There's something about 3. I don't know. Is it aging not well or something? I don't know. I don't dislike it. It's just, there's something about I don't dislike it. It's just, there's the whole Goonies vibe, hey, I am the dream wizard master. You look tired. I don't know. Welcome to primetime, bitch. Yeah. But you know what? I mean, I don't know. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like Dream Warriors, okay? I do. There's nuance here. But I just don't like it as much as everybody else does. Everybody else says, it's the best one. Dream Warriors. We are the Dream Warriors. La, 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 la. And I'm just like, yeah. I'm like, it's good. It's fun. It's different. You got all the, what you call it now? The lucid dreaming, and I get it. But there's something about Dream Warriors. I'm just like, yeah, it's okay. It's good. I don't dislike it. Here's the crazy thing. And this is when I was doing the best and worst of the Elm Street series with Frank and Darren of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast a couple years ago. But I had to watch every Elm Street movie in a row. And I hadn't done that in a long time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I hadn't done that in a long time. And so I was watching them one right after the other. I think we were doing one a week or something. This is 2022 or 3. And it's on their channel. Go check it out. And I watched Elm Street 3, and I was because we were doing it. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's Elm Street 3. And then when I watched Elm Street 4 not right after, but the next week, I remember liking Elm Street 4 more than I liked 3 at this go-around. Now, I agree. Elm Street 4 is Freddy on the beach with the sunglasses. He's the MTV Freddy. He's arguably where the transition is. Now we're really kind of heading into the, Yes, I agree with all that. But there was something about Elm Street 4 that I liked better than Elm Street 3. And I'm pretty sure I talked about it on that episode of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. If you just type in best and worst of Elm Street 4, Dave McRae, Slaughtered Lamb, it'll pop up. That episode, I mention it. I say, look, I for whatever reason, I'm not, I don't know, there's something about Elm Street 3 that I'm just like, over. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. It's weird. Very weird. Alex C says, Chloe Grace Moretz portrayal of Carrie is better than Sissy SpaceX portrayal, but original movie is better overall. Well, there you go. Is that a hot take? I mean, I guess maybe it is. I'm not sure. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Skate Toon sends in €2. Thank you. Or £2? Yeah, it's £2, I believe. Says, hi, Dave. I was on your Weapons trailer video and you mentioned the Society TV show. Had me curious and binge watched it. Loved it. So wanted to say thanks. It's amazing. And aren't you angry there's never going to be a second season? Aren't you angry? I mean, why isn't there going to be a second season? The Society, it was so good. It was so good. And I wasn't even the target demographic for it. It was so good. And the acting was so good. And it unfortunately was death by COVID. The pandemic killed it. Had to go on hiatus. They didn't want to wait. The young actors were probably moving on to other things. But man, that was a good show. It was like Lord of the Flies meets Stranger Things. I mean, it was just wild. And such a good show. Terrific acting from everyone. Great writing. And it ends on an epic cliffhanger where you're like, what the fuck? What is going on? Weapons kind of, that little bit of like, I was going to say Pan's Labyrinth. Flute. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I agree. It's crazy stuff, man. It's crazy stuff. Josh Stevens, $4.99 says, hot take number 1. I love Nightmare on Elm Street, but it missed my list of top 10 horror franchises. If they were smart and cast you as an ex-Freddy, it would change my mind. So you love A Nightmare on Elm Street, but it isn't in your top 10 favorite horror franchises? There are 9 others that are above Elm Street? That is a hot take. That is a hot take. Usually Elm Street would find its way in there somewhere, for horror fans, but that's a good one. Movie Chat and More Part 2. Thank you, Richard. Says, my hot take is the OG Texas Chainsaw is the most overrated horror film of all time. Whoa! The most overrated horror film of all time, according to Movie Chat and More, is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a hot take. That is a hot take. But I for whatever reason, I think this is a bit of a hot take. I enjoy Elm Street 2 more than I enjoy Elm Street 3. I think I do. I don't dislike Elm Street 3, but I don't love it and fawn over it as much as a lot of people do. And I wonder what it is. I wonder if it's, although no, maybe not, because, I was born in 79. I got into Freddy early on. I was wondering maybe if it's an age thing, like just that maybe those born in the later half of the 80s or the early 90s, maybe that. But no, there's lots of people that were born before me that love Elm Street 3, and it's their favorite in the franchise. So I guess maybe it just has something to do with that Goonies aspect. These kids, not kids, but, teens. They're the last of these surviving Elm Street kids in this hospital, and they're all having lucid dreaming, and they're learning how to use it and fight Freddy. And that concept is a great concept. It is. And I think it's that aspect. And of course, who doesn't love the veins and walking down the hall? And it's great. It's great stuff. I like Elm Street 3. Welcome to Primetime, bitch. I like it. I do. But And when I think about it a bit more, certainly, I think what it is for me is just Freddy, man. Freddy is just so good in Elm Street 2. I know the story's probably not as interesting and not as good, and the rules are bent. They take creative liberties with the rules, but man, that Freddy is it's so good. Freddy is so good in that movie, and he looks so good in that movie that he's able for me to elevate 2 over 3. I mean, it might just, and there's some cool, it might just, you know what I'm saying? Like there's something, I don't know. If they had Freddy, if they had Elm Street 2 Freddy in Elm Street 3, woo, and even in the rest of the series, woo, man. Crazy stuff. Robert Kitzmiller sends in a member chat. Thank you, Robert. Been a member for 21 months. Amazing. You're almost up to 2 years. Says, hot take, Jamie Lee Curtis's prime knockers are better than Sydney Sweeney. Jamie Lee Curtis, is that a hot take? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I have no idea. I would I would have to go take a look. I'd have to. It's a tough assignment, but I'd have to go and take a look. I don't know. Is that a hot take? I'm not sure. That's funny. Josh McKenna, $9.99. Thank you, Josh. And says, hot take. Although I like the OG movie better overall, Scout Taylor Compton was the better Laurie. Ooh, the better Laurie. Okay, I wonder how many others feel that way. Although you like the original Halloween the best overall, you feel that Scout Taylor Compton's performance as Laurie Strode is better than Jamie Lee Curtis's. Okay, yeah. That could be perceived as a hot take. That could definitely be perceived as a hot take. Somebody the other day, I asked somebody the other day to give me a Halloween hot take, and they said Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is the best in the franchise, and the original Halloween is the worst in the franchise. I'm not kidding. Don't shoot the messenger, folks. Don't shoot the messenger. I'd be curious to know, does anybody else feel that way? Is there anybody else that would have the guts to feel that way? That you feel that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is the best in the franchise and the original Halloween 2 is the worst in the franchise? Is there anybody that feels that way? Crazy stuff. Movie Chat and More says, sorry about my dumb message the other week. I was in a bad mood. I know you appreciate all of us. You're the best. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Richard, don't worry about it. It's fine. You're in a bad mood. Just try not to take it out on me. Go punch a pillow, Richard. Go punch a pillow. No worries. Alex Shambach, been a member for 21 months, says the Terrifier franchise has turned into modern day snuff films. While I appreciate the acclaim they get, they give to practical effects artists, the franchise will largely be viewed with disdain as years pass. That's a hot take. That is a hot take. I mean, especially since, we're right in the thick of the whole thing. By the way, Brandon Collins, one of our great mods here. My apologies. I forgot to get back to you. You had sent me a DM saying with a link to what's his face's podcast with Damien Leone as a guest. And you sent me a clip where Damien Leone even says what I've said. He says he was asked by Rosenbaum, that podcast. He says to Damien Leone, he says, how do you feel about, I'm paraphrasing all this, by the way, how do you feel about Art the Clown becoming a, horror icon? And even Damien Leone said, well, I like hearing that. Who wouldn't? I totally get that. He says, but I think, again, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, I think we need to kind of pump the brakes for a bit and he's still new, he's fresh. Let's have this conversation again in 20 years. Where will he be in 20 years? Does he have the staying power, right? Like, that's basically what he's talking about. So even Damien Leone, he's a smart guy. Even he was like, I love hearing that. And I get that he's like really the only thing in town at the moment, right? You know what I mean? So when you're the only thing in town, as well, obviously that helps. And people are so hungry for another horror slasher icon. They're so hungry for it that they'll turn to anything that is new, right? And he's hot right now. But even Damien Leone said, maybe, but let's, the jury is still out. Even he said that. That's what I've been saying. You know what I mean? And even he said that because he understands it. He gets it. He's like, yeah, that's great. Like, we're well on our way, but let's see where we are in 20 years. Will people look back at Art the Clown in similar ways that they do others? Where will Art the Clown's, once the dust has settled and we've moved on, what's his staying power into the broader sort of zeitgeist, right? Anyways, I just want to let you know that I did catch that. I just forgot to let you know. But yeah, look, there's a lot of people that might feel that way. for sure. Morgan Film Fan sends in $5. Fellow Canuck says, Halloween 1978 probably wouldn't make my top 30 favorite horror films of all time, but Rob Zombie's Halloween probably would, and the OG Fog and Thing. Ooh. So Morgan Film Fan's not quite saying that the original Halloween is the worst in the franchise, but he's saying, hey, listen, it's not really, it's kind of, the original Halloween is one of those movies that I think, if you, and I'm not talking about you, Morgan, I'm just now, shifting to a general sort of statement. I think if you didn't grow up with the original Halloween, and when I mean grow up with it, I don't mean, if you weren't introduced to it early on, if you didn't necessarily grow up through the 80s, and sort of, because, again, when I got into the Halloween franchise, there were only 3 Halloween movies. There was 1, 2, and 3, right? And, that was it. When I was playing Michael Myers and dressing up as Michael Myers when I was, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 years old, there were only 2 Michael Myers movies, right? You know what I mean? And so, I have a very sort of love for those two films, obviously, because they were the only ones. It wasn't until 1988 and late 1988, nearly 1989, when Michael came back. And so I think if you introduce, because there's so many other modern Halloween movies with modern production value and modern sensibilities and, modern kills and, all that kind of stuff, Rob Zombie's films included, and different takes and versions. I think if you're introducing the original Halloween to somebody now, it is incredibly dated, slow, could be seen as boring, because I get it, right? And, it wasn't a big film. It wasn't like, even Psycho was a big film. It had a big director attached to it, Alfred Hitchcock. It had big backing, big marketing. Psycho was a big movie for its time, right? And anything Alfred Hitchcock did it was Alfred Hitchcock. He was one of the greats at that time. He was one of the greats, right? He was working for the studio. It was a studio film. Like a lot of these movies were big films for their times. Halloween was like nothing. It was an indie film. It wasn't backed by anything. It had to play in small markets and get word of mouth. And, it was just this small little movie that just caught on and became the highest grossing independent horror movie of all time, which is nothing to sneeze at. But I sometimes think that in retrospect, like, even though the original Halloween is my favorite horror movie of all time, and I still think it holds up to this day, you do have to watch it within the confines of its context if you are new, especially something like Halloween. There are some older horror movies that maybe play a bit better, like, say, Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. Might feel a bit more polished, feel a bit more modern, even though it's old. You know what I mean? It's got this ensemble cast, great actors like Donald Sutherland and Jeff Goldblum and Leonard Nimoy, and you know what I mean? It's got this cast, right? It's got a stacked cast. And even though it's an older film with older production value and it looks dated as well, it still feels maybe a little more polished. Whereas Halloween was indie even then, and it feels indie now, and maybe even more so because it was, you know what I'm saying? I think you know what I'm saying, right? So it's still my favorite horror movie of all time. I still think it holds up today. The type of horror that it was and is, I still think resonate. I still think it resonates today. For sure, that theater of the mind, but it's old school. It's an old school film, and you have to watch it through that lens. And a lot of kids today, or young people today, might be like, yeah, this is like, I'd rather watch Halloween Kills. Like, it's way better. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, yeah, it depends on what we're measuring. You know what I'm saying? And so, I've met a lot of people that think the original Halloween is a boring snooze fest. And I'm like, no, but it's so amazing, and here's why. Hang on a sec. Tom Ungurian sends in $10. Thanks, buddy. He says, first hot take, I hate A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Is that a hot take, though? Is hating A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 a hot take? I don't know if it is. I mean, maybe to me it is, but in general, like if you were to ask people what their least favorite Elm Street movie is, it's either going to be Freddy's Dead or Elm Street 2. Like, Elm Street 2 has come a long way, and I think more and more people like it today than ever before. But I don't know. Is it a hot take? I'm not sure. The director ran his mouth about Wes Craven, so fuck him in that movie. Well, that's not really well, hey, if that's how you're making it the job, okay, I get that. Second hot take is I'll take Child's Play over A Nightmare on Elm Street. For far as franchises go, but love the OG and Part 3 A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of anything past Child's Play 3. So you might even be able to whittle that. You might even be able to whittle that down to 2 for me. But yeah, okay, all right, hot take. Child's Play franchise over A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Movie chat and more. I can't stand Rosemary's Baby. Terrible movie. Oh, no, Richard, I categorically disagree with you. I think Rosemary's Baby is great. That is a hot take. KG, $2, says, I don't like the OG Elm Street. Oh, there's some hot takes coming today, folks. Bring them, baby. Bring them. Let's hear it. This is your time. This is your time to just spill it out. Let's hear it. Just spill it out, folks. Spill it out. Richard can't stand Rosemary's Baby. KG thinks A Nightmare on Elm Street's a piece of crap. Well, he didn't quite say that, but he says he doesn't like it. Aaron Gilbert sends in $4.99. Thank you, Aaron. Says, hot take maybe. Or hot take maybe. Pamela Voorhees has the best film in the franchise. Sorry, Jason. Ooh, I think that's a hot take. I don't know if I would agree it's the best film in the franchise, but it's one of the better films in the franchise. I actually think Elm Street. I think Friday the 13th, the OG, is, yeah, there is an argument to be made that it's a better made movie than 3. Maybe not 4 and not 2, but better than 3. I think you could make that argument. Jason's amazing in 3. Don't get me wrong. Where he gets the mask. It's the first time we see him in the mask and all the Jason stuff. But I just mean the film itself, the way it's structured and, executed. The 3D really hinders that, especially the home movie experience. Hey, Bob, you want something? Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. But I mean, you know me. I love the OG Friday the 13th. Alex C., $5 says, Helen's theme from Candyman is up there with Carpenter's theme, with Carpenter's Halloween score as best score in the genre. Listen to it in the dark and look in the mirror. I'm going to have to look up the Candyman theme again. Is that a hot take? It might be. It might be. Daz says, I like the Rob Zombie Halloween films, but I'll never understand the people who were aware of his previous films and got excited to see his version to then hate it so aggressively. What else were they expecting? Well, I think when it comes, I think to be fair, just because you make one kind of movie doesn't mean that's all you are able to make, right? Or all you should make. There are some filmmakers that cannot adapt, that don't adapt, to your point. There are some that just make one kind of movie. And then there are some filmmakers like Steven Spielberg, who's made all kinds of movies. Everything from, Jurassic Park to Schindler's List. I mean, Jurassic Park and Schindler's List came out the same year. And they are like the polar opposite, like the extreme polar opposite of movie genres, right? So I think Rob Zombie, again, he was, he had a couple of films, but I think people just assumed, oh, maybe he's going to bring some grit, some gravitas, but wasn't expecting it to just be, what it was, right? You know what I mean? Like it's so I think, and I was one of those people. I didn't expect it to be as crass and as rude and crude, and in my opinion, unnecessarily so, as white hick trash. Like he just makes trash movies. Like not trash movies. Not all of his movies are trash, but I just mean there's just this white hick ding 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 ding. He just, that's like just what he does, and it's just like, yeah, now I know that, and because it's just but when you're a filmmaker, depending on how talented you are or what kind of filmmaker you are, you can adapt and you can make other things. So but hey, I get it. I totally get it. Let me see here. Josh Stevens, $9.99. Thank you, Josh. Says hot take number 2, Dave. Number 2. Dave's rationale for a Friday the 13th show being a good idea because it adds more meat to the bone for the story should also be applied to the Halloween TV series. Previous streams you disagreed. Well, the reason why I disagreed with it, Josh, is because of the foundation for which the characters are built. So in principle, I agree with you. And I will even go as far as to say, and you know me, like I'm very open-minded, I'm willing, and I will admit that, hey, if they were to release and make a Halloween prequel story and it's really good, I will be one of the first ones to tell you this is really good. I'm not one of those channels that's like, no, I have to pretend I don't like it because that's what I've been saying for so long. No, I'll tell you. I mean, again, I liked Barbie, right? And I'm not afraid to tell you. So you're going to get the truth from me. But the reason why I'm more apprehensive about doing a Halloween prequel series, anything to do with Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis and that dynamic and Myers and stuff, is because of the foundation for which the character is built. The reason Michael works and the nucleus and the inception of the character is built on the foundation of ambiguity and mystique and the unknown. Whereas when it comes to Jason Voorhees, he's not built on that. We know who his father is. We know why he's doing what he's doing. We know what happened to Jason. We know what he looks like. We know what his motives are. We know the story of Jason Voorhees. He was bullied. He drowned in the lake because he wasn't a very good swimmer. And the counselor was not watching. And then his mom avenged his death and, vowed to, and then his mom was, beheaded. And apparently Jason saw that from the lake and, came back and vowed to avenge anybody who dares set foot on in honor of his mother. Like there's so much lore and mythology and meat that is already there. It just hasn't been applied. You don't end up ruining any sort of mystique. If you were to do a Jason prequel series with Pamela or Jason building on that mythology, building on that lore, and adding that meat to the bone and shaping and polishing and noodling and, poking and prodding and really shaping something really, really cool, you don't run the risk of ruining the mystique of Jason. I mean, listen, you can always ruin the mystique of a character depending if you jump a shark, but I just mean that the risk of ruining any sort of Jason Voorhees mystique is very low. When it comes to Michael Myers, if you go back to tell the who, what, where, when, and why, what are we doing? Michael is built on the foundation of not knowing the who, what, where, when, and why. That's why he works. That's what makes him Michael Myers. That's what makes it work. And if you go back, and that doesn't mean you can't go back and tell something that is good and works, but the risk is so high that you're going to alienate the fan base even more so than Jason Voorhees, that I just don't think it's worth it. But if they were to do that and go back and talk about Michael Myers and Smith's Grove and build all this stuff and now we know about him and his parents and all the and the dynamic between him and Dr. Loomis and all this kind of stuff, then and it's really, really, really good, and they've cracked the code and they've figured out to preserve the mystique and the enigma and the ambiguity and still keep it mysterious and still feel like you're getting something out of it, I will be one of the first to tell you this is fucking great. This is great. They did it. This is great. But I don't see anything that tells me that they know how to do that. you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't think they know how to do that. And so, I'm just less confident in that. And the same can be said about Freddy Krueger, right? I mean, we know the backstory of Robert Englund. We know the backstory of Freddy. We know who he was. We know the who, what, where, when, and why. We know he was a child murderer and he was burned. The parents got together. So seeing a prequel series to seeing Fred Krueger unburned doesn't ruin the mystique of Freddy Krueger, right? Because we already know that. Like, we already know all that. Michael's a very, very different beast. So that would be my only argument to that. That's how I feel. But it is a hot take. It is a hot take, Josh. It is a hot take. Movie Chat More Part 2 says, hot take, Psycho 4 is brilliant. I haven't seen Psycho 4 in a little bit, but all right, is it? I'm not sure. Dude says, hot take 2, High Tension is great, except for the lame twist. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Twist and all. Antonis Andriotis sends in $5, says, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 remake is my favorite in the franchise. Wow! A hot take. I need a hot take sound effect on here. That's what I need. Do I have any hot take sound effects? I don't think I do. No, I just have... Amazing. Is his favorite in the franchise. It is very dark and creepy in my opinion. Jackie Earle Haley is my favorite Freddy. Wow, amazing. He's your favorite Freddy. That's so cool. Well, listen, I mean, Jackie Earle Haley is certainly the least of that film's problems, right? But hey, I think that's so cool, man. I think it's so cool to discover that Antonis Andriotis, who's a regular viewer, who's a great viewer, great contributor here on the channel, just steps up and says, you know what? My favorite is the 2010 Elm Street. That's my favorite in the franchise. That's amazing. That's awesome, man. I don't agree, but I think that's cool. Cody Snyder, been a member for 21 months, sends in a member chat and says, I'll take Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and Jason Lives over Halloween 78. Ooh, there we go. Brandon Collins, one of our great mods, says, hot take, I've always found The Omen to be silly. I got to watch The Omen again. I haven't seen it in a little bit. I got to watch it. I mean, I've seen it a ton of times, but not in a while, not in maybe over 10 years. Whew. These hot takes are making me thirsty. These pretzels are making me thirsty. What's that from? Let me see here. Hang on a sec. Let me see. Nikki K says, Rosemary's Baby scared me. I couldn't look at meat the same way for a long time, and I definitely couldn't watch that movie pregnant either. Yeah, I love Rosemary's Baby. Kyle Buckley sends in $10. Thank you, Kyle. Says, hey, Dave, I met John Carpenter this weekend. Amazing. At the Philadelphia Comic-Con. He signed my DVD and answered a question for me. He was an awesome guy. What question did he answer? What did you ask him? Something juicy? That's awesome. That's cool. I'm glad you had a good experience. Chase Jackson sends in $4.99, says, Happy Mother... For some reason, I thought that was Happy Mother's Day. I was like, Mother's Day? Happy Monday, Dave. My horror hot take is the Halloween franchise would have ended up better as a whole if they kept the anthology route. Any thoughts? Yeah, you know what? I think you're probably right. I think, obviously, probably not at the box office. But here's the thing. Even though Halloween 3 was, was a step down, and obviously people were like, yeah, like I get your point. Had they stuck it out, if this wasn't show business, and had they just stuck it out, would the audience have settled in? Maybe. Maybe. We'll never know. But, well, we could still know if they decide to do that. But, yeah. Yeah, that's a bit of a hot take. You might be right. Chase. Aaron Gilbert, $9.99. Thank you, Aaron. Says, not really a hot take, but I believe you've said this before, and I totally agree. Rob Zombie would have been a way better fit for a Texas Chainsaw film than Halloween. Yeah, I don't think that's really a hot take. You're right, but you are right. I have said that before. I know others have said it too. Yeah, I think he would have done well with a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. Yeah. I still wouldn't mind seeing a Rob Zombie Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. It'd be interesting. Josh McKenna, $9.99. $1.99. Thank you, Josh. Says Terrifier 3 is better than the first two. Is that a hot take? I don't know. I've yet to see Terrifier 3. I still got to watch it. Abraham Lincoln. Oh my God, the former president of the United States is tapping in from the other side, ladies and gentlemen. Abraham Lincoln sends in $2 and says, have you seen the Haddonfield Nightmare on YouTube? Haddonfield Nightmare. Why does that sound familiar? Braden Timmons fan film, right? I have seen it. Yeah, the first one he did, I have seen it. Yeah, he did that a few years ago. Yeah, I have seen that. It was good. He did a really good job. Let me see. Wayne Downey sends in $20. Thank you, Wayne, for the generous super chat. Appreciate that. And says, my hot take is that I like Halloween 6. All right, well, that's something. A lot of people like Halloween 6. I like it better than 5. I don't like the story, but I just enjoy watching it for some reason. Maybe it's the filmmaking that hooks me in. It's shot pretty well, particularly in the Haddonfield scenes. Well, you know what, Wayne? I think what you're probably seeing is listen, you're right. Despite the story being a catastrophic dumpster fire, in my opinion, and the angle they decided to go, it is a much moodier, atmospheric film than Halloween 5. Halloween 5, in my opinion, is, although it has moments, like this is a good scene with it, or that's a good shot with it, moments of some mood and atmosphere. Overall, Halloween 5 is void of it. It just, anyways, I've talked about Halloween 5 ad nauseum, but Halloween 6 is a much darker film, tonally, thematically too, but tonally. So, I could see that being a little bit of a hot take, maybe a little bit of a hot take. I'm not sure, but all right, let me just jump over to the other screen here. Did I get all the super chats and all the member chats? I just want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, wait, where's all the, hang on a sec here. Why is that not showing up? The viewer activity. Let me just refresh this page. Oh, if I refresh this page, am I going to fuck up the stream? Ah, well, it's not a big deal. I think I've got it. Somebody will let me know, and for whatever reason, it's not showing up on the other screen. Somebody will let me know if I've missed a super chat or a member chat. I don't think I have. Jasmine Martinez. What's going on, Jasmine? Says, horror hot takes. The Friday the 13th franchise is garbage. Oh, I love it. I mean, I don't necessarily agree totally with you, but I love the fact that you were confident enough to just spill that out. The Friday the 13th franchise is garbage, and Black Christmas is better than Halloween, in my opinion. Ooh, now that's a hot take. The original Black Christmas for me is obviously one of my favorite horror movies of all time. The original Halloween is my favorite horror movie of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time, period. Black Christmas is definitely one of my favorite horror movies. Is it better than Halloween? In some areas it is. In some areas it is. In other areas it's not. It's a slower paced film. For God, there are so many people out there that think Halloween is a slow snooze fest. And I'm thinking, even though I don't agree, if you think that's no, watch Black Christmas. It's a lot slower. But I love Black Christmas, obviously, for a lot of the theater of the mind and the techniques that were used and the old school vibe. I love those kinds of things. I've just been polishing my script, The House on Port Robinson Road, going over it, just tweaking a few little things here and there. And it's a very classic story, a very classic old school horror story, which I quite like, very theater of the mind and obviously with modern sensibilities and modern production and, all that kind of stuff. But it's a classic sort of, it has that classic feel to it, which is intentional. But it's becoming more and more apparent to me as I tweak and fine tune the screws. And I love it. Movie chat and more, sends in £5. Thanks, Richard. Says, hot take, Two Dudes Are Zombies Halloween 2007 is a comic masterpiece. It's about 3 hours, but so funny and cool. Oh, I see what you're saying. The episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit commentary on Rob Zombie's Halloween 2007 is a comic masterpiece. It's about 3 hours, but so funny and cool. Is that a hot take? I don't know. We're now rating my shows. Is that a hot take? I haven't gone back and watched it since the day I did it, so I have no idea. But yeah. Daz says, while I acknowledge Black Christmas is a great film, I personally have no rewatch value. It has no rewatch value for me. I'll likely be watching It's Me, Billy more in my life. Well, that's cool. That's all right. Yeah, you know what? There's some films that are like that. I've watched some movies in my life that don't really have a lot of rewatch value necessarily for me, but they're great movies, right? Sometimes movies do that. You get everything you need. They're great movies. They will always be considered good movies. You know, the general consensus is like, that's a good movie. Yeah, it's a really good movie. Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, you should watch it. It's a good movie. But you get everything you need from it in one viewing, right? And sometimes you don't necessarily need to go back. Or maybe you wait like 10 years. I'm going to watch that again. There's lots of movies that are like that. You know, so that can happen. I'm trying to think of some movies like that for me. But if I thought long enough it would happen. But yeah. The Bad Case sends in $4.99. Thank you, Bad Case. Says, hot take, Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake 2003 is better than the 1973 original. It's 1974 original, just so you know. Is that a hot take? You know, it might be. I do think that the 2003, it's 2003 or 4, I think it's 3, remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel is one of the best horror remakes of all time. I will say that. I think it is one of the better. It's better than the Halloween remake. It's better than the Friday remake. It's better than the Elm Street remake. It is one of the better horror remakes of all time. Now, Texas Chainsaw The Beginning, which came out in 2006, I think I only saw that once. I can't remember whether that's good or not. I have no idea. But I remember I went to the theater to see the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I remember walking out thinking to myself, that was great. Like, it was really, really great. Love the ending when she's being chased in the rain and it was good. It was probably way better than it had any right being. It is one of the better remakes. And I think the general consensus is just that it is one of the better horror remakes. You know what I mean? And there's not a lot of them. Alex C says, the Robo Chick from Superman 3 is top 3 scariest. It's not horror, but scary. I don't remember the Robo Chick 3. Or, excuse me, the Robo Chick from Superman. I haven't watched Superman 3 in quite a few years. I remember that Richard Pryor is in it, but I can't really remember a lot of it. Haven't watched it probably since I was a kid. I've watched Superman 1 and 2 more recently, of course, but I'd have to go back and watch it. But apparently it is. Oh, here we are. Great. I can now see if I've missed anything. Sorry, folks, just looking back just to make sure I didn't miss any super chats or member chats. It doesn't look like I have. That's good. Good. All right. Folks, there's 103 of you in here right now and only 37 likes. Let's see if we can get those likes up near 100. It really does help the channel. It shows that there's engagement, and YouTube will push shows and videos that show a lot of engagement, right? So please hit that like button if you wouldn't mind. I'd really appreciate that. Let me see here. Let me see. Robert Kitzmiller, possible hot take. Lee Winnell is overall a better filmmaker than James Wan. Ooh, that could be a hot take. That might be a hot take. So if you look at, I don't know, Wan's got Saw, Dead Silence. He did that one with Kevin Bacon, Death, whatever it was. Anyway, he did that one. He did the first 2 Conjuring, the first 2 Insidious. I know he did Aquaman, but with horror, he did why am I blanking on the name of the movie? Well, the one, you know the one I'm talking about. It begins with an M, I think. And then Wolfman for Winnell, Insidious 3 for Winnell, Upgrade for Winnell, The Invisible Man. I mean, it's certainly comparable. And I'm not a hater on Wolfman. There's a hot take right there. I thought Lee Winnell's Wolfman that just came out in January is great. I don't think it's like amazing. I'm not saying it's the greatest horror movie ever made, but I think it's way better than the reviews were. It's way better than what the horror community says it is. I think it's really good. I do. I think it's really good. You know what? I will say it. I think it's a great film. And like great is in the sense of that, I don't know, okay, maybe not great because people are going to interpret that not the way I want them to, but I think it's a very good horror movie. I do. And the Wolfman and how they, all that, it didn't bother me at all. I think there's great mood, great atmosphere, great cinematography. I like the way that they bounce back and forth between, the Wolfman and what he's seeing, what they're seeing. I think it's a really good, creepy, claustrophobic horror movie. But you would think it was fucking Halloween 5 the way people were ripping into it. I'm like, what? You just watched a completely different horror movie than I did. Do I think The Invisible Man is better? Yeah, probably. But I don't think it's night and day. I don't think it's black and white. I think Wolfman is way better than, just the hyperbolic shitting on it took was unreal to me. I think it's largely from those who were expecting a werewolf instead of a wolfman. And I know that we can play loose and fast with those rules, and there is an argument to be made that maybe it's a bit of a semantics thing. But if you do look it up, there is a distinct difference between wolfman and werewolf. And I think people were expecting, hoping, and wanting more werewolf than wolfman. And unfortunately, that's not what they got. And they wanted it. They were expecting something different. But if you just watch it again, it's a really great, creepy little horror film. Again, no, I probably didn't like it as much as I like The Invisible Man, but it certainly, in my opinion, is nowhere near the catastrophic dumpster fire. Yeah, dumpster. Literally, people are like, this is a shit. It's fucking shit. I'm like, it's shit? It's shit? Like, shit. No. Freddy's Dead is shit. Like, so it's like Wolfman and Freddy's Dead. Like, really? Is that what, really? It's a dumpster fire? Like, what is, come on. Get out. I can't take you seriously. I cannot take people seriously who say Wolfman 2025 is dog shit. Terrible movie. Awful. I can take somebody going, yeah, it was okay. I wasn't really a big fan. Nah, shit. Worst movie I've ever seen. Ever. Get out. People say that. I'm like, really? I don't feel the same way. Daniel Palma sends in $4.99, says, I am a Star Wars, I'm assuming that means Star Wars, purist like you. If you haven't yet watched Andor 1 and 2, please do. Best Star Wars since the original trilogy, and it's not even close. I have not watched Andor. I just lost interest in all Star Wars shows. Not because they were bad necessarily. There's just too many, and I just didn't keep up. So, but if I find time and I fancy it, I will make sure to do that. I have heard good things about it though. Movie Chat and More says Predator has aged terribly. Oh, the original? Richard, I disagree. I think it's great. I think it holds up great. It's aged poorly. Like what? Effects? Well, yeah, it's 1987. You mean like language maybe? Maybe the manly men, the muscles, the biceps, the bulging pectoral muscles? I mean, I don't know. What's a... Josh Stevens sends in $4.99, says, hot take number 3, Art the Clown has surpassed Pennywise as the scariest movie clown, although It has a better story. Can't wait for Welcome to Derry. Yeah, I think the trailer for Welcome to Derry is tomorrow. I actually knew I met I'm going to blank on this. I was at a dinner with some industry friends, and I was sitting beside a gentleman who worked on, it was either Welcome to Derry. Was Welcome to Derry shot up here? If it was shot in this area, then maybe I am thinking that right. It was either Welcome to Derry he just finished, or it was It Chapter 1 and 2. It might have been It Chapter 1, or maybe it was both. Anyway, he was the director's assistant. Not assistant director. Not assistant director. That's the AD. He wasn't the AD. He was like a personal assistant, kind of, to is it Muschietti? Is that the guy's name? Anyway, something like that. Anyways, we had a long talk about it and his experience, and it was really cool to sort of listen to his experience of shooting I think it was the 2 films, but maybe it was the show, because he did mention it and he talked a bit about the show, so maybe it was the show. Anyway, it was really cool to get that insight. Really, really nice guy. So anyways, yeah, that's side point. But yeah, so the Welcome to Derry trailer drops tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. And hot take from Josh Stevens, ladies and gentlemen. Pennywise, Art the Clown has passed Pennywise. You may be right. Oh my God, I'm out of my water. I'm gonna have to go get another one. I'm out of my water. Tom Hungarian says, I just watched Wolfman the other day. I definitely don't hate it. That's good. I'm glad you didn't hate it. That's a plus. That's a plus. Brandon says, 100% agree about Andor. It's the closest thing to the spirit of the original trilogy we're ever going to get. It's special, and you don't need to have watched the other shows to get it. Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate that. Movie Chat and More says, Carl Weathers is the most underused actor ever. I don't know, Richard. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're just pulling these things out of your, out of all the actors in the history of movies, Carl Weathers is the most underused of all time. Is that a hot take? Maybe it is. Maybe it's a hot take. Jasmine Martinez says, another horror hot take of mine is that The Mist is better than The Shining. Ooh. Shining is great, but The Mist is phenomenal. The Mist is really good. The only thing, and I've said this before, the only thing I don't like about The Mist, and I thought this when I first watched it, The Mist came out in 2007, I think? Frank Darabont's last feature film he's made. It is, Frank Darabont, the guy who made The Shawshank Redemption, arguably one of the greatest movies of all time. All time. Up there with The Godfather and Citizen Kane. And it is considered one of the greatest films of all time. His first feature film. Then he goes and makes The Green Mile. Maybe not as good as Shawshank, but still, The Green Mile, phenomenal film. Phenomenal. Then he makes The Majestic with Jim Carrey. Maybe a bit of a step down, maybe. And then he makes The Mist. And he hasn't directed a feature film since. It's been nearly 20 years since Frank Darabont has directed a feature. Now, he has directed television. He's directed some episodes of The Walking Dead. And I think he even directed an episode or two of the new Stranger Things series, season 5. He's still directing. He's still out there. But he hasn't done a feature film since The Mist. And The Mist was amazing. And I'm like, fuck! Somebody get Now, there's got to be... I don't know why he hasn't. I don't know if it's the bureaucracy of filmmaking and directing feature films and working with the studios, or I don't know if it's that or any side of red tape or just the bullshit of I don't know. I don't know why he has not directed a feature film in 20 years. I don't know why. I don't know. Only he knows. Has he ever been asked? I don't know. Maybe it's out there in the ether. I'm not sure. But anyways, I digress. He directed The Mist. And it's got one of the most shocking endings in the history of movies. One of the most shocking endings I've ever seen in my life. I rented The Mist in 2007. or 8, whatever it was. And I remember watching it. And the only thing I didn't like, the only thing that I can remember that I didn't like was some of the CGI, not with the flying things, but when they're in like the back of the grocery store where like they, they're in the back and there's like that worm thing. Even in 2007, I thought it looked like ass. Even in 2007, I'm watching it. I'm at home. I rented it from the video store. I'm watching it. And even then, when that scene came up, I went, I was like, and you get past it because the movie is so good and the performances are so amazing. You get past it. But even then I was like, it's the only thing. I was like, that doesn't quite look good. So I can only imagine now it probably looks even worse. It's the only thing, but I mean, the performances are great, and I remember it takes a lot to shock me. And I remember when that ending happened, when they felt there was no hope left. Well, you know what? For those of you that haven't seen The Mist, I'm not going to spoil it. I will just say that when the thing happens and then like 5 seconds later, he realizes that he didn't have to do that thing that happened. My mouth literally dropped. That's not like, I'm not just saying that for effect. I'm on my couch, and when that happened, I went, no, oh my God, no. Oh, and that ending Frank Darabont had to fight for. He had to fight for that. The studio didn't want it. Maybe that's why he hasn't directed a feature film since. I don't know. Something like that. I'm a little hazy on the details, and I stand to be corrected, but I believe Frank Darabont fought for that ending because the studio didn't want to do it, I think. And he was like, no, we got to do this. If I'm going to do this, we got to do it right. And we got to do that. It's going to be shocking and just like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Oh, it's one of the greatest, most shocking endings in the history of film. Period. It's up there with one of the greats. And The Mist is a great movie. Great film. And you like it better than The Shining. Ooh, yeah, that's a hot take. The Shining is amazing. The Shining is amazing. That definitely would be a hot take. All right, have I got all the super chats? Have I got all the member chats? I just want to make sure. Movie Chat More says, who do you think is the most underused actor? I don't know, Richard. That's a good question. Underused? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. It's a good question. I mean, the question can be broken down into who is the most underused, which means that you would have to believe that they're very good. They're underrated, perhaps. And they're very good. And they're just underused, or they're not in a lot of stuff. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it. All right, what's the time? It's only been an hour. Feels like we've been going a lot longer for some reason. Let me see. Aaron Click talking to Daz. Let me scroll here. Josh Stevens sends in a member chat. Thank you, Josh, and says, mild take, Weapons will be the best horror movie in the past decade. Until The House on Port Robinson Road comes out, at least. I love that Josh is so supportive for The House on Port Robinson Road. Amazing. I was just working on it today. Again, I'm just fine tuning the screws in the script, right? You kind of go through and just fine tune the screws, just polishing lines here or there, or whatever. And it makes me excited. I mean, I have such a clear vision for this thing, and it's pretty cool. Weapons will be the best. Well, you know what? The potential is there. I don't know if that's a mid take. I mean, a lot of people are excited about it, are excited for it. So it definitely they're, I mean, the marketing so far for this thing has been really good. And I'm curious to see what this is going to be about. You know, I just tell people, temper your expectations. Don't get too excited, because, you know, eventually you're going to find out what's going on. And if it doesn't, and just remember, if it doesn't align with exactly what you imagined it was going to be, that doesn't mean it's dog shit, doesn't mean it's a dumpster fire, doesn't mean it's not good. You know, just take it for what it is, take it as it comes to you, and then think about it, you know, reassess, maybe wait a day before you jump online, you know, wait a day, let it marinate, maybe see the movie again, you know, because that can happen. You know, we can get so locked into when marketing is so good, when ambiguous marketing is so good, you know, and so, I sound like Donald Trump there. So good. It's so good. The best. So good. I'm telling you, it's amazing. A lot of goodness coming out of Weapons. Very excited. It's so good. So good. Donald, yes, Mr. President, what do you think of Weapons? Weapons. I like a lot of weapons. We like a lot of weapons here in the U.S. A lot of them. No, the movie, sir. The movie, Weapons. A lot of them. Better have a lot of machine guns. But just because the, you know, when you have like ambiguous marketing, you know, and the marketing is so good, it gets you excited, you know, and then your mind begins to wander and you start to think about all kinds of great stuff, you know, but just remember that, you know, sometimes when it's not what you thought, you go, oh, that's not what I thought. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, right? You got to think about it as part of a whole, not in a vacuum, right? And so, now that doesn't mean that there cannot be a decision made where it is bad, where you're like, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense. No, of course. But I think people tend to jump the gun and shoot from the hip, and, you know, because it doesn't quite align with what they thought, you know, they think it's shit. And sometimes that's why when people go back and watch movies again from a less emotionally charged place, they walk away going, yeah, you know what, actually, it's all right. You know what I mean? So Richard says Rocky V is actually a good movie. Ooh, that's a hot take. Well, I think the themes of Rocky V are pretty good, but I don't think Rocky V is a very good movie. No. All the good movies are taken. Why is that an N? I thought it was all the good movies. All the good not are taken. What's your acronym again? Anyways, Barbarian fell off a cliff. Hopefully Weapons doesn't. You know, I don't think that's I don't know if that's a hot take, but, you know, there's an argument to be made for that. I like Barbarian. I like the bold choices. I like that they turn things upside down, but there is an argument to be made there. There is an argument to be made, because I've often said that with Barbarian, and I've said it here on this channel, you know, you could have made a movie about just those two people in the Airbnb. That's enough of an effective premise to carry a film if the writing is really good. Now, it would have been a small film, right? More claustrophobic, more nuanced. But it would have been maybe a bit more psychological. Not that Barbarian isn't psychological, but I mean, it would have been that way all the way through, because the premise, you know, this woman, I think it was raining, right? I think. Anyway, she shows up to the Airbnb. She can't get inside. There's somebody already in there. It's a man. So already that power dynamic is unsettling for a woman. And he's like, oh yeah. And he seems nice. Oh, this must've been a mix up, whatever. Come in. She's unsure. It's like Hitchcock. That's a great, like, little Hitchcock film, you know, like that alone would have been very interesting. And then you play into that dynamic. You don't need to go where it went. You play into that dynamic. And is he or isn't he? Will they or won't they? Is she or isn't she? Maybe she's the one that's, oh, you play into the stereotype of the dynamic, right? And audiences already subconsciously see Skarsgård as Pennywise anyway, right? So already subconsciously, there's a little bit of a villain sort of association that you have with him. But he's also a man, and so there's a power dynamic, and that would have been interesting. And then the twist is it's her. That really he needs to be afraid of her. She's the barbarian, if you will, whatever, however you want to justify, the name of the title. But she's the one that he needs to be afraid of. But you don't play into that. You don't necessarily play into that dynamic until you need to, right? You could have just played that movie like that. I think the actors were good enough. The chemistry was strong enough. The dynamic was interesting enough. And that would have been a great little horror film. Ooh, that would have been creepy. More psychological. It would have been more of a character-driven film. But it would have been interesting, I would have loved to have directed a film like that. But so for that reason, because I've always thought that, for that reason, I think, to your point, I think there probably is an argument to be made that maybe Barbarian lost some people when it got a little barbarian-y. But we'll see. We'll see if Weapons does the same thing. I hope it doesn't. The only thing I hope is that there aren't avant-garde decisions being made for the sake of being avant-garde, for the sake of subverting expectations. Well, I did it with Barbarian. I've got it. That's my thing now. No, it doesn't have to be. Listen, you can make a great movie with a great twist and never make another movie again that has a twist. Like, you don't have to be the twist guy. The problem with that, though, is that studios today are a lot of the times looking for the hook. And if your film doesn't have a hook, it doesn't have to be a twist that necessarily turns everything upside down. But if the film doesn't have some sort of hook, if it's a little too linear, that might be one of the notes they come back to you with. This is great. We really like this, but can we have a little, a little something kind of at the end, a little, it's like, yeah, but I don't. No, a little like, a little, and so sometimes directors might be forced into a situation where they're like, I have to kind of add a little bit of a dun dun dun, moment of some kind, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it can work really well with the story, and sometimes it doesn't. I just hope that it's organic, it feels emotionally and narratively connected to the piece, and it doesn't take us too far off out into left field where we go, I don't know. You know what I mean? So, and that's what you're saying, because for you, that's what Barbarian did. So, no, I get that. Josh McKenna, $9.99. Thank you, Josh. As buddy, I don't go into the woods. Don't Go Into the Woods and Motorhome Massacre are the two best horror movies in history. Just kidding. I just wanted to see your reaction. Oh yeah. Could you imagine? Oh yeah. Motorhome Massacre is, anyways, and Don't Go Into the Woods. I mean, Don't Go Into the Woods was on the Video Nasties list. Shocking. Unbelievable. Let me see here. Okay, let me just quickly go back to the other screen. Just want to make sure I've got all these super chats. I don't want to miss any super chats. Drunk Dr. Loomis, send in those super chats, you bastards. You lazy fucks. Donald, calm down. Don't speak to them like that. Shut up, you fucker. Yeah, my Dr. Loomis is in a perpetual state of being inebriated. Let me see here. Guitarist Dog 87 says, maybe a hot take, but I think it's time to forgive the H4 mask. George P. Wilbur rocked it well. Well, it's a hot take. That is definitely a hot take when it comes to the Halloween universe and the community. Not as hot as some, but you know what? I will say this, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's not a good mask. It's not. It's not a good mask. But out of all the Michael Myers masks that were not the original, so part 4, part 5, part 6, the 973,421 masks in Halloween H2O, including the CGI mask, the Halloween Resurrection mask, the 2 Rob Zombies masks. I mean, out of all those, before the David Gordon Green trilogy, I got to be honest, I'm honest with you. Out of all the masks, the Halloween 4 mask for me, and it's not a good mask. It's not. But out of all of the not good masks, for whatever reason, the Halloween 4 mask is the one that has grown on me the most. Now, there's bad moments where it looks terrible, like when he kills Bucky and the remaining glow of the electricity is on his face and he looks, I don't know, he kind of looks like Michael Jackson. It just looks weird. I was like, oh God, that doesn't look good. Obviously, the debacle in, the school with the blonde hair. And yeah, we can isolate moments where it doesn't, but overall, it's grown on me the most. And it's the weirdest thing. It's grown on me the most. And not the 5 mask. The 5 mask has never grown on me, ever. I think it looks as crap today as I did when I was 10 when I watched the movie. Halloween 6, I think 6 is better than 5, but the 6 mask has never really grown on me. Is that a hot take? Maybe. I don't think it's garbage. It hasn't really grown on me. Same with the Halloween H2O mask. Never grown on me, ever. No matter any iteration. It never has. The Resurrection mask, same. It just kind of stays in one spot. Rob Zombie's masks stays in one spot. But the 4 mask, it's weird. So, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying in a sort of weird kind of way. It is strange. It is strange. Let me see. Hang on. Okay, so Josh McKenna was the last super chat. Okay. Oh, I said KKK. I meant okay. Somebody's going to clip that out. No, Dave likes the KKK. No, shut up. That's the internet. I meant okay. Alex Shambach, I believe we are living in the best era of horror. The amount of quality horror films that are released every year far exceeds any other decades. Well, that's true, and there's definitely reasons for that. But it's relative too, right? There's arguments to be made against that. I mean, obviously, we are living in modern times with the best tools at a filmmaker's disposal. So the production value and the logistics of filmmaking and technology and is the most advanced it's ever been. And so, whether we are living in a time where the best horror movies are being made today, as opposed to 30 or 40 years ago, 50 years ago, I think that's subjective. That's really subjective. That's the whole point. I mean, that's a hot take, right? I don't know if I agree with that. I agree that there are some great horror movies being made today. And I think horror as a genre gets a bit of a bad rap. However, it is also 2025 and the volume of movies being made today is more than at any other time in our history. So more and more are being churned out. I mean, again, we often, not necessarily me, but we, the collective as a horror community, often throw shade and makes fun of, Blumhouse. I was going to say something else. And I get it. I understand it. Despite the fact that you may not hold Blumhouse in a high regard, they are still, with A24 and Neon right there, but I'm just saying, they are still one of the titans in horror. They are one of the greats. And there is not a horror director, myself included, that if Blumhouse came calling, would not take that phone call. So yeah, maybe they've had a couple of shitty movies and they've had a bit of but there isn't a horror director that wouldn't pick up the phone if they heard that Jason Blum called, because he has influence. He's one of the biggest in the game, and he can make a career. You know, he's one of the biggest in the game. Now, the thing with Blumhouse is they become one of those sort of, they're not quite as picky per se. They're a little more populous, a little more mainstream than something like an A24 or a Neon, which they're a little more niche. They're a little more particular with the kind of horror that they do. But you might say the same thing, that Blumhouse would be probably not willing to take on a movie maybe like Longlegs or The Witch or something like that. That's not quite their style. And so, you know, they churn out a lot of movies. And when you churn out a lot of movies, you're bound to get some stinkers. It's not necessarily reflective of Blumhouse overall, and that Jason Blum's just a piece of shit and he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's more just a natural byproduct of volume. If A24 and Neon started churning out the volume of movies, that Blumhouse did, or started churning out, then the same thing would happen. The same thing happens to anybody, whether you're Universal or Paramount. It happens. It's just the more movies you produce, the more bad movies you will make. The more good movies you will make, but the more bad movies you will make as well. It's like in sports, right? The longer you play, if you're a goaltender in hockey, the longer you play, the more wins you will get. But the longer you play, the more losses you will also get, right? So again, I'm speaking a very sort of Cliff Notes version. There are a lot of nuances and details I haven't dove into, but generally speaking, that's sort of the situation. But Blumhouse does churn out some pretty good ones too. And they have, if you go back and you look at the movies they churn out, you're like, that was Blumhouse. That was really good. And then they have some ones like, that wasn't really good. That wasn't really good. That was really good. Oh, that was really good. They churn out a lot. They're still the titans, one of the titans in the space. And like I said, there isn't a horror director that wouldn't take that phone call, because there's still an opportunity to turn out a great Blumhouse movie, But yeah. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that, but obviously one thing leading to another. Movie Chat More sends in £10. Thank you. Says, this era of horror is terrible. I disagree. Why does there have to be a hook all the time? Friday 09 failed, but that doesn't mean Ali should have quit the ring after losing to Frasier. Bring back simple horror. Well, Richard, I think you're being a bit, if I say this with all due respect, I think you're being a little simplistic, but you also like simple horror. And you like your horror a little more linear. And so it's important to remember that horror evolves, right? And it's not just exclusive to horror. It's exclusive to the industry as a whole. And again, when we say hook, we don't mean Sixth Sense level twist necessarily. There's different levels of twists, right? There's Sixth Sense and there's everything in between. And when a studio says hook, they mean something that is unexpected, or something that makes you think a bit differently about what you just watched, or something that adds a bit of a different layer to it. But that's, poignant to the type of subgenre we're talking about, right? A slasher movie doesn't need that, right? It doesn't need that. Thanksgiving didn't have a hook. I guess if you want the Scream movies, what are the hooks? What are the hooks in the Scream films? Well, they're the whodunits. That's the hook. You don't know who the killer is till the end of the movie. That's all it is. Right? And so there's different variations of hooks which would affect the narrative in different ways. But horror evolves. Audiences grow. Audiences mature. Audiences expect and want more. You may not, but you are not the representative of the collective. And so, and there are people that feel exactly like you. And there are people that don't. And so it's, again, not to go off on a tangent about this, but I'll just quickly say it is the reason why you will not get a Friday the 13th series that is just recycled formula of the first 3 movies. They can't do that. It will fail. They cannot do it. They have to put more meat on the bone. You can't just make a movie with Jason and boobs and teens and blood and expect it to have any sort of staying power. You can do that once, but you're not going to get staying power out of that. It's not the 80s anymore. And if that's what you want, then just watch the 12 movies you already have. But again, I encourage fans like yourself to remember it's a scale. When somebody says we want to add more meat on the bone, we want to elevate this. Like I say, think of it like an apartment, right? Or like a big office tower, big skyscraper in Toronto or Chicago or New York, wherever. There's a lot of levels to this. Something like The Shining or Hereditary or 2001: A Space Odyssey. Those are things that are on level 100, right? But there's also 99 other floors. So when they say we want to elevate the Friday the 13th franchise, they just mean taking it from the basement, because that's where it is. When you look at the movies, that's where I love them. I love them as much as the next Friday fan, but that's where they are. They're schlocky B movies from the 80s. So all they're saying is we want to take them out of the basement, dust off the mold. We can't just live in the basement in 2025. And we want to bring them up to floor number 5 or floor number 4. They don't mean your options are not schlocky B-movie basement or The Shining, right? There's a vast spectrum in the middle. And that's what they're talking about. We need to put more meat on the bone for a series, because this is a series. And there's got to be a story here. And we need to do that for today's audiences, right? We can't just... Every episode is just a bunch of kids going to the camp with tits and blood and Jason. We can't do it. Not in 2025, Richard. It's not going to happen. And it's why it's not happening. Because the market says it will fail. They've studied these things. They know about this stuff. It's why they're not doing it. And they can't do it today. But all it's going to take is to deliver something that's got more meat on the bone, a great story, great characters, and feels like Friday the 13th, and has the DNA there. And then you're going to forget about it. You're going to go, yeah, now I get it. Now I see. If they turn Friday the 13th into Hereditary, well, then you can complain and be like, what the fuck is this? But even Friday the 13th, 2009, like I said, even that movie has more meat on the bone. It's not just kids at a camp with boobs and blood. No, there's a subplot. A brother loses his sister. His sister goes missing, so he goes out trying to... Even that has more meat on the bone, right? And they knew even then in 2009, well, we got to do something. That's what they're talking about. So I disagree that horror movies today are worse, because there were some bad horror movies back then too. There's bad horror movies today, but there's also some great horror movies today. Fantastic horror movies today. But I do agree with you, Richard. There are some bad ones today too. Tom Hungarian says, I disagree with you, Dave. Not everything needs to be elevated. No, I agree with you. Not everything does. Not everything does. We used to be able to watch movies to get away from reality. Now we care because everything puts their views into, because everyone puts their views in every horror movie. It's terrible. I disagree, Tom. So again, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I am not saying that every horror movie has to be elevated. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the B-movie schlockiness, right? The B-movie schlockiness of the 1980s, that era is largely over. And what studios are doing today is they're looking to take older properties and elevate them a bit. I think people get lost in the term elevated, and they think that and to be fair, elevated is being tossed around today in some ways to mean psychological, but it's got a bit of a double meaning. So yes, in films like The Witch or Hereditary or Long Legs, yeah, elevated would mean psychological. But in the case of Friday the 13th, what they mean when they say elevated, they're using sort of the flip side of the coin with that. They mean we need to bring it up, right? We need to put more story into it, right? We need to put more meat on the bone. That's all it means. We're not saying we're turning Jason and Friday the 13th into The Shining. That's not what they're saying. They're just saying we need to bring it up a little bit. And lots of movies will do that. And you're right. Not every movie needs to be elevated. You're absolutely correct. 100%. I agree with that. But just like a golden age of slashers was the late 70s to the mid 80s, we're kind of in the golden age, because you could say to people back in the 80s, well, not everything needs to be a fucking slasher. Well, Jason and Michael and Freddy and Pinhead and Leatherface. And, I'm sure there were people like, God, everything's a slasher. You know what I mean? And today we're going, not everything needs to be. That's true. Not everything does. But we're in a phase right now where psychological, elevated horror, non-slasher films, elevated psychological horror is the hot thing. And that's where we're at, right? We're in that phase at the moment. And when it's done well, it's done really good. But listen, there were lots of slasher movies being made way back in the day that were just churning out because of the market, right? Some went to theaters, most didn't. But I mean, Friday the 13th only exists because of the success of Halloween. That's it. And why? Because Halloween spawned a new subgenre, the slasher, the gold. I mean, you could turn to Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw. I get, but in terms of any real momentum, right? Halloween is looked at the one that kind of really got the ball rolling. And then Sean Cunningham said, well, I'm going to make Friday the 13th. I mean, you could argue and say, yeah, but Sean, you don't need, not everything needs to be Michael Myers. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong, right? But what do people want? What are people into? What are people going to see? You know what I'm saying? But I do agree with you. I do. But I will say this, in case people are thinking I'm jumping on bandwagons. The House on Port Robinson Road is an elevated psychological horror film, but it's not because of the trend we're in now. I started writing the script in 2005 when the hip thing in horror was torture porn, Saw, Hostel, all that. So my film has always, I've always wanted it to it was always going to be that. It's just now, thank goodness, now it appears to be hot, which bodes well for me. Just in case somebody thought. But I don't disagree with you. Not everything needs to be everything, right? I totally agree. Jasmine Martinez sends in a very generous super chat. Thank you, Jasmine. I really appreciate that. Says, political social commentary has been in movies since the beginning of the industry. That is true. Horror isn't the only exception. That is true. People just hyper-focus on those elements of movies thanks to the culture war channels. That is true, too. I to piggyback off of what you said there, Jasmine, it is true. We often think that political commentary, social commentary, is something new, especially in horror. And it's not. The culture war YouTube channels and social media have, among many other things, have allowed the general movie-going audience to be more hyper-aware of it for the reasons that you say. And also, I think in some cases, and I go back to this example because I think it's a great example of it, is the Black Christmas 2019 film. It's not a good Black Christmas movie. I don't particularly think it's a very good movie either. And that is an example, and there are other examples of it, but that is an example of a political message with a movie attached to it. Now, you're free to make that, and you're free to do that. My only worry, if I was offering advice to somebody who was doing that, I would say the problem in doing that is you run the risk of sounding pretentious and condescending and beating people over the head and telling people what to think and how they should think. And then your movie and your story may actually have a really good message. It may actually have a really good, theme. But the problem is that if it's too on the nose and it comes across as pretentious and condescending, then any message you might have in your movie gets lost in translation. And then people get hyper-focused on feeling like they're being talked down to because it's so overt and on the nose that they lose any sight of any positive message you might have. And Black Christmas 2019 is a perfect example of that. And there are other films. But having social commentary about, rights or life or political leanings or messages have been around for decades. I think maybe they were just better at woving it into the fabric, unless they're being overt on purpose, like something like Network. Network's a great film, unless there's, they're being kind of, but there's some, it's not a horror film either, although depending on how you look at it, but there's some great movies that, well, look at Black Christmas, right? The original, great example. Jess is pregnant. She wants an abortion. I mean, that was very hot at that time. Was a little against type, right? I mean, a woman wanting an abortion, was a little bit of against type at that time. Weaving it into the fabric, of the narrative. Those are things that there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. And people who scream woke or yell at all this stuff, 9 times out of 10, not all the time, because there is a problem with political correctness and wokeness. There is. But 9 times out of 10, people just scream and yell and really it's not what they say it is. And they just glom onto the buzzwords and all that kind of stuff. But to your point, yeah, it's to say that social commentary doesn't belong in movies is missing the whole point of great storytelling. Social commentary is in some of your favorite. If you wanted to, the reason why you don't notice it is because they've done a terrific job of weaving it into the narrative and into the subtext, operative word being sub, to affect your subconscious. And therefore that's really what it's about. Right? And weaving it as part of the fabric. But the second that you feel like, they're breaking the fourth wall and going, oh, and by the way, in case you didn't know what this movie's about, you suck! That's where it gets kind of like, this is not going to go well. And for Black Christmas 2019, it didn't. I mean, even there were women that watched Black Christmas 2019 that were like, why am I, I don't need to feel coddled here. I don't need to have my hand held. I don't need to whoa, guys, I know what but hang on. You know what I mean? There are a lot of women that felt that way after watching that movie. And there were people that liked the movie too. But that's a good example of being a little condescending and on the nose. But you're right. Jasmine is right. Social commentary has, and subtext, and I mean, it's been around for forever. And so, I agree. But you can also, see the reason, you look at something like Halloween Kills, there's nothing wrong at its nucleus and at its core. There's nothing wrong with, and she definitely was the reason for it, the championing of sort of the subtext and the social commentary that Jamie Lee Curtis wanted in the films. The problem is the Halloween films had never really had them to this depth before. And so now you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. And especially Halloween Kills, the movie sort of stops and gives an intermission on social commentary and then gets back to the movie. And so I think there was something there, but I just didn't think they did a good job at weaving it into the film, into both movies, Halloween Kills and Ends. They just didn't, they needed to do a better job at weaving it into the fabric of the story. Instead of having the movie come to a halt for a commercial, and because it derails the momentum and it doesn't feel organic at all. Aaron Gilbert sends in $4.99. Thank you, Aaron. Says, I feel like social commentary in Get Out was too much. I feel like certain group of people were being portrayed as evil. I thought Get Out actually was great. I actually liked Get Out. Get Out to me was, yeah, like I get what you're saying, but I think it's done well enough that I didn't feel offended. And I'm a white guy. I'm as white as they come. You know, my mother was born in England. I mean, I'm as white as they come. So I didn't feel, you know, offended by it. Like I thought the movie was done very, very well. I thought it was good. And it leaned a little bit into the stereotype, right? Just a little bit, just enough. And I think it's Jordan Peele's best movie. I've seen Us. I've seen Nope. I still think Get Out is his best movie. I wasn't a big fan of Us. I didn't dislike it. I just wasn't a big fan of it. I think Get Out is his best movie. But I get what you're saying. Movie Chat Morris says, social commentary in the woke culture will be the death of horror movies. I disagree. Dave, we are roughly the same age. How can you not see it? Well, because I think, Richard, I think it's not that I can't see it. I just disagree with you. So you have I have more of a nuanced approach to these things. You tend to, from my understanding, and I can only go by how you structure your super chats and comments, you have a bit more of a black and white approach. It's either this or it's that. And I don't, you know, I work in the industry as well. And so I have a bit of a more nuanced approach to storytelling, and nothing is black and white. And something, you know, these things are not just this or that. And so it's not that I see exactly what you're saying. I just disagree with you. That's just what it comes down to. But that's me disagreeing with you, is not me saying there aren't people, like there isn't an issue. I'm not saying there isn't an issue and that things aren't woke and the political correctness has gone through the roof. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I think it's a little more nuanced than that, right? You know what I mean? And I think for there to be real discussion around something like that, if you really want to come to the table with real discussion, I'm not saying you, I mean you, the collective you have to come at me with platitudes and buzzwords. You know, it's got to be, there's a real discussion that can happen. And there is a problem. I acknowledge there is a problem. I mean, there is, but I disagree with you that horror movies today are largely not good. I disagree with you. I just disagree. I think there are some great horror movies today. That's just a disagreement. Okay, what's the time? I'm over. Have I got all the super chats? Have I got them all? I don't know. Let me see. Have I got all the super chats? Have I got all the member chats? Any last hot takes? Any last hot takes before we wrap up the stream here? Any last hot takes? Let me know. Any last hot takes? Hot takes. Any last hot takes? Hot takes. There were some good ones today, folks. There were some really good hot takes today. Really good hot takes. Really good hot takes. Maggot Cat says, I recently watched Talk to Me. I thought it was a solid horror movie. I really liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing their follow-up, Bring Her Back. Looking forward to that one. Of course, I believe they still got Talk to Me 2, or Talk to Me is still on the slate. But I've heard good things about Bring Her Back. I'm a big fan of Sally Hawkins, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she does in the film. But yeah, I liked Talk to Me. I thought it was good. When Evil Lurks, I think is it. That was a great horror movie. You know, Insidious, The Conjuring, Longlegs, Hereditary. What's the one with the one that Demi Moore was just nominated for? Smile 2. Don't Worry, Darling. No, not Don't Worry, Darling. The other, not Don't Worry, Darling. That's what's her face's film. Strange Darling. Strange Darling. Yeah, I think that one. That was great. Oh, Richard, there's a lot of great horror movies out there, my man. A lot of great horror movies. Maybe not your kind of horror, but there's a lot of great horror movies out there. Harsh Language Podcast says, not a hot take, but you should watch the show The Studio if you haven't. Both a brilliant celebration and indictment of Hollywood. It's so good. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard good things about it, and I've talked to people who have seen it, and yeah, I hear it's really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. Tom Hungarian, hot take, waffles are better than pancakes. Here's a hot take. I'll leave you with this hot take, folks. Pineapple belongs on pizza. Pineapple belongs on pizza. I've said it. I am the arbiter of all things pizza. That is going to do it, folks. My name's Dave McRae. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you, of course, to my great moderators, to all the super chats that came in, the member chats that came in. Hey, if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on anything I had to say here today. But of course, more specifically, your hot takes. Give me your horror movie hot takes, ladies and gentlemen. I want to know them. What are they? Jump into the comment section and let me know your thought. Oh, James sending in a super chat at the buzzer. Bzzz, but he gets it in. $4.99 and says, Sinners is one of the best horror movies in the last 5 years. It will be nominated for Best Picture. He's predicting it. I've yet to see Sinners, but I hear Sinners is great. There's another one, Richard. Maybe you should get your butt to the theater to see Sinners. Maybe you'll like it. I don't know. You like vampires? Maybe you will. I'm not sure. I have heard a lot of good things about Sinners. So I'm really looking to checking that one out as well. Tom, pineapple definitely belongs on pizza. Yes. Folks, have a great rest of your Monday. I will be back soon with another episode. Stay safe out there, folks, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.